It is. It is 7 o'clock. We will open the meeting. We request if you could please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to tonight's annual town meeting. We thank you for attending and participating in the town's legislative process. For those of you who do not know who we are at the front table, to my right is your Board of Selectmen, Andy Lynch, Bob Button, and Amber Kowalczyk. To my immediate left is your town clerk, and to her left are the representatives from the Finance Committee, Mark Carpentier and Leo Fayer. My name is Sean Richard, and I'm your town moderator. We'll begin by going over some important topics relating to town meeting procedures. As we move through the warrant, we will discuss each article and accept a motion, second, and open for discussion, and end with a vote. Any proposed article amendments we will request be provided either verbally or written to myself for inclusion in the meeting record. During discussion, if you choose to speak, we ask you to please walk to the microphone to my right, and just form a line, no need to raise hands in advance. We'll go in order that people go up to the microphone. We request that for this meeting for a few reasons. One, we are recording for the town's YouTube page, also so that it can be included in the records for Sue, the town clerk. And also, as you can see to my right, we do have an individual here who is providing sign language for one of our residents so that they can participate in the meeting as well. We just ask that you please remember to keep discussion civil and direct questions or comments to myself and the front table. Lastly, we will vote on each article, and as customary in East Brookfield, the moderator will not vote unless it is necessary to either break a tie to pass or cause a tie to defeat a motion. At this point, the selectmen have requested to address the meeting, and I yield to them.
Good evening. I'm Andy Lynch. I'm your chair of selectmen. First of all, I'd like to introduce Jason. Jason has been doing a YouTube channel for us. He has done the last 4 or 5 selectmen's meetings as well as our informational we had on recycling. He also is live streaming. You live streaming now? We're live streaming tonight, and it'll be available on YouTube after. It's a trial that we started. It's worked out pretty good. We've got a little bit of feedback. I would like a little bit more feedback. He's also available to do FinCom or Planning Board or any hearings that the Board of Health has, conservation, anything like that. We like to get as much information out as we can. In the past, we've discovered we're not really good at putting out information. Hopefully this will make it a little bit better. I'd like to take a moment to thank Andrew Lavasher. He was our selectman that did not seek re-election. I'd like to introduce Amber Kowalczyk. She did seek election for some reason. But we'd like to welcome her. Hopefully she'll be a good addition. She does a lot of research. All right. I would like to start by saying that East Brookfield has not moved forward with seeking an override. The Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, Accountant have worked diligently to put this budget together without needing an override this year. Stay tuned. We have emptied some O2 accounts and some stabilization accounts. There's issues. If you look at the other towns, there's a lot of issues with the state aid coming in or not coming in, and it leaves us in a bad spot. They're able to raise 2.5% on our levy every year, plus new growth. In the last 12 to 13 years, the state aid has grown a total of 2%. So we're able to increase, but the state aid is not. Also, we had an informational meeting on the solid waste. As of July 1st, 2027, they will no longer pick up bags on the curb. We'll have to go to totes. We have a 95 and 65 gallon tote by the door as you came in. There's also a 35-gallon tote, but for some reason it didn't come in. So we're going to have future meetings once that gets a little closer. Bob Button is on the committee that's looking at the Wheelabrator contract. The Wheelabrator contract in Millbury will be up July 1st next year. Working with Republic, we were able to get them to agree to a one-year contract to continue what we're doing now until we get a little more information on wind waste to find out what the actual tippage is going to cost us. So stay tuned for that. The last thing I'd like to bring up is East Brookfield Friends of the Community will be having fireworks as normal this year. Everything goes forward. However, looking at all budgets, there is a lot of police detail, fire detail, and highway overtime that goes into that event. We have had the Friends of the Community in, and we told them that it may not be possible for the town to fund those portions of their event. They may need to do a little bit more fundraising or donation seeking to have that come about. Nothing that we're saying right now that it's not going to happen next year. It's just as we work through the budget process next year, we are looking at some pretty serious numbers. It's in the $15,000 to $18,000 range that the town is contributing through details and overtime for that event to take place. So if they can do a little more fundraising, that wouldn't be an issue. Finally, the worst part of my duties this evening, I will read the residents who have passed since June 17th, 2025. Roger Barnes, James Biendo, George Bishop Jr., Paul Collette, Andre Cormier Sr., Elaine Fahey, Karen Gustafson, Timothy Harry, Robert Fresco, Richard Laporte, Stephen Lundgren, Marion Barola, Donald Openshaw, George Perrault, Judy Pollard, George Scott Jr., Len Silman, Carol Valley, and Edward Williams Sr. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get into the articles, I would like to propose dispensing reading of the warrant, constable's return to service, and articles. We've done this in the past at previous town meetings, and would like to continue to offer it as an option to shorten meeting length and provide additional time towards article discussion. When the motion is provided, a yes will dispense with the reading of the warrant, constable's return to service, and articles. A no vote would require a reading of all three. At this point, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and constable's return of service, and the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number, by subject matter, or as provided in print to the voters in attendance, and further, that article amendments need not be read and printed and provided to the voters in attendance, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. All right. We will jump into Article 1. Article 1, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the amounts shown hereafter in the, quote, summary budget recommendations, and I'd just like to note, there's a single two-sided sheet that you could pick up if you haven't already out at the front. The detail for the budgets is included in the multi-page handout. I will be reading the actual bottom line budget amounts for each department. So, we recommend that the amounts shown hereafter in summary budget recommendations and in the column entitled fiscal year, 2027 budget recommend be raised as indicated in attachment A, which is your multi-page one, to defray town expenses for the 12 months ending June 30th, 2027, and that the annual salaries of elected officers of the town for the ensuing year be set as follows. Town clerk, $37,000. Selectmen, and this is split between 3 members, $10,000. The chairman's salary, $567. The treasurer, $31,381. The collector, $34,739. The assessors, again split between 3, $5,026. The chairman of the assessors, $230. State certification for assessor, $750. Board of Health, again split between 3 members, $2,027. Chairman of the Board of Health, $294. Tree warden, $400. And neither the planning board nor the chair of the planning board is receiving a salary per their request. Now with that, I would like to go into the individual budget totals. Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we get started on the budget detail, I'm Leo Tayada, the chairman of the finance committee, and I just have a few remarks. I just have a few comments to make on behalf of the finance committee, just to give you some oversight and some understanding about how we got where we are. Thank you. Can you hear me now? First, I'd like to say, on behalf of the Finance Committee, welcome everyone here. Thank you for coming out on a steamy night. I also want to thank the members of the Finance Committee, Town Accountant Donna Kuchar, who's responsible to us, also the Board of Selectmen, and in particular, all the town department heads. They were very cooperative, especially once they found out the situation that we're in. I'm going to start by saying preparing and balancing this year's budget was very much a struggle. Probably the most difficult one maybe in the history of this budget. We have been, over the last several years, expecting a substantial increase from the school department. In light of that, we asked all the town departments this year, before we even received their budgets, to do their best to level fund their budgets to the same amount that it was last year. Every single one complied to the fullest extent possible. In addition, the Board of Selectmen, at our request, met with all their departments early this year to discuss and approve their budgets, which was very much appreciated because it gave us a chance to get a little bit earlier start. Even with this effort, we still faced a budget deficit in the first half of the budgets that we received. Then, after receiving the school budget, we found we had a crisis on our hands in the form of a roughly $400,000 deficit. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that you understand and hopefully agree. We're not blaming the school department. What they've done over the past 5 years has enabled us to get to where we are, even though we have such a crisis situation on our hands. What they've done is they've used cash on hand, grants, a lot of creativity, and they've also been paying over the last several years for items that we should have been paying for all along, but they took care of in order to keep the assessment increases as minimal as possible to the number of times. They did all this while their costs to operate have continued to rise just like everyone else's. As they say, the chickens have come home to roost. The increase, I just want to make this note too, the increase in their assessment this year has nothing to do with the cost of the high school renovation and addition, other than some expected increases in utilities and maintenance costs. All that took place, their handling of their budgets and their assessments to us have been over the past 5+ years. Over that same 5+ years, the town has been adding personnel and equipment to improve the services that most people want and expect. Police Department, Public Works, Fire, EMS have all seen increases in wages, increases in the number of personnel, and certainly, as most of you will hear, know, we have a new ambulance on order, we have a new fire truck on order, we recently purchased an excavator, a dump truck, all things that were overdue, but we were able to do. And also, like I said, have increased the services that people have become accustomed to. But obviously, this also comes with a cost. The elephant in the room is that while our costs and every other town and school district's costs have been escalating dramatically, state and local revenues have not kept pace. As you're all aware, no doubt aware, many communities this year have been dealing with overrides and/or deep budget cuts. East Brookfield has been fortunate that we've been able to establish and maintain cash reserves. This year, despite everyone's best efforts, we will have to use well over $225,000 in one-time money in order to balance our budget and maintain the current level of services. This is not something that we ever want or wanted to do. It goes against all of our core principles. But with so little time to react and no other alternatives, we find ourselves in a position where we must recommend this action for fiscal 27. Without the benefit of foresight, it's hard to know what next year will bring, but it's likely we will be faced with another substantial shortfall. Our plan from the Finance Committee in conjunction with the Selectmen is normally we start our budget review in late February or March. This year, we plan to start in the fall, and we'll begin to put together budget and revenue projections. We will be asking all town departments, with the help of the Board of Selectmen, to look into any ways we can find efficiencies to hold down escalating costs, and also to make any budget reductions wherever possible. If we feel in the fall that a large deficit is imminent for next year, we plan to hold a series of public meetings to get feedback from voters. As I noted earlier, if we do have a big deficit, there are only two options: either an override or a reduction in services, because we can't continue to use one-time funds to cover deficits. We feel it's very important and imperative to have voters involved in that decision before any action is taken or recommended. We definitely don't want to have such difficult decisions come as a surprise to voters just a few weeks before a town meeting, which we've seen in other towns, and understandably, when voters don't have the information, they very rarely want to approve an override, and even if they do have to make budget cuts, they're not done with the correct amount of thought. We owe it to the taxpayers to make sure that you have all the facts and know what the ramifications are before being asked to make such an important decision. So early in 2027, we will put out whatever information we have at that time and begin to schedule public meetings to get taxpayer and voter input. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I'll just add one thing. This ain't no joke. This is serious stuff. So with that, what I'll be doing, as I noted earlier, is that within this motion, I will read the total for each of the departments and each of the committees. If there is a question, please raise your hand. We'll make note of it and come back to that once the full reading is finished. Okay? For the accountant, the total is $57,893. The Board of Selectmen, it's $105,761. For the treasurer, $36,048. And again, you have all the detail in the multi-page handout if you so desire. The collector, $41,489. For tax title for the treasurer and collector, $15,000. Assessors, $71,695. Town clerk, $42,995. And again, these are budget totals, not salaries. For elections and registration, $14,310. The Finance Committee, $200. Conservation Commission, $4,204. Planning Board, $39.86. Central Mass Planning Commission, $1,000. And Municipal Properties, $107,550, for a total general government of $502,131. For the Police Department, $815,855. For the Animal Control Officer, $15,258. Fire Department, $234,762. MEMA, which is Massachusetts Emergency Management, $1,500. Tree Warden, $1,400. Plumbing and Gas Inspector, $59.64. And Building Inspector, $24,631. For the total for public safety at $1,099,370. Next, we have Board of Health at $33,245. Council on Aging, $44,667. Veteran Services, $12,772. For a total for Human Services at $90,684. Next up is Highway Department at $438,694. Highway Snow and Ice, $77,000. Street lighting, $40,000. For a total of, for highway and street lights, street lighting, $555,694. Cemeteries, $19,006. Library, $107,316. Next up is Recreation at $10,850. Park Commission at $17,500. Historical Commission, $1,500. Memorial Day Committee, $1,150. East Brookfield Pride Committee, $500. Depot Square at $5,000, for a total cultural and recreation budget amount of $36,500. Next up, we have health insurance and benefits at $447,000. Longevity, $24,000. Property and workers' comp insurance, $140,000. And retirement fund at $398,397, for a total of $1,009,397. Next up is the reserve fund, $40,000. For a total town operating budget of $3,460,098. And I so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the budget? If you could please come up to the microphone.
The question was why the veteran services budget went down by almost $20,000. The reason for that is veterans services are mandated by the state. We have a veterans agent. If the services are not being used, we're just putting on a tax rate. and not using it. Over the last 2 years, we haven't expended almost anything from that. Prior to that, we did have some veterans that were in need of service, and we actually had to have a special town meeting because we had to replenish the funds. Any services that we do render, it's a 75% reimbursement, 75% reimbursement from the Veterans Administration. But at this time, there is no forecast for any veterans that will need services. So rather than having veteran services be at $30,000 and just sitting there, the Finance Committee recommended that it be lowered to $10,000. Now, you'll note that their reserve fund went from 30 to 40. A lot of these budgets are cut tight, and if any emergencies come up, the Finance Committee can post, meet, and do a reserve fund transfer to any of these budget items, including veteran services, which we've done in the past.
Hello?
Okay. Oh, there we go.
I was wondering about street lighting. Does that include the lighting around the school, or is it just actual street lights?
The street lighting budget is strictly for the lights on the street itself. They're unmetered, and it's an estimate from National Grid, and that's a whole other discussion. I would look at at some point in time. We have all LED lighting, but it is unmetered, and it's an estimate from National Grid. It does not include any lighting around the schools or Hodgkins Building, Fire Department, Highway, or the Town Hall.
Has anyone looked into if all the street lights are necessary?
Yes, we have. We have had the fire chief, the police chief has had numerous times where he's gone around and counted each light and where they are, whether they were necessary, and they, at this time, we feel that all the lights that we are paying for are necessary for public safety.
I just had a question about the $200,000 that we're taking from the reserve funds that you created. Wasn't that supposed to be saved for the fire truck just in case we need it? Does that mean if we vote, I mean, we're going to have to pay for things, but does that mean that's all gone?
No. What we drew on this year, or what we're recommending that we draw on this year, was one of two funds that were set aside years ago. One of them was for elementary education. We had what we kind of characterized as a shock year one year, when the ratio of our students in proportion to Spencer students changed substantially, and we were not expecting that. So to prevent that from happening in the future, at a town meeting, we allocated a little over $100,000 in the event that happened again. And it was geared toward the idea that that ratio could fluctuate a little bit, but that particular year, it changed quite a bit. With that said, that fund, or that amount of money, has been sitting parked for years, so it has gained interest. So this year, with very few alternatives for funding, we made the decision as the Finance Committee to recommend that we tap that fund. That particular fund has nothing to do with funding the fire truck.
I just remember you saying there was like $200,000 earmarked just in case. That's a separate fund, and then is that not being tapped right now?
Well, all of that was prior to this year.
That's what I was asking. So
That's why what we're suggesting is that we broke one of our own cardinal rules this year because we had to. With the deficit being what it is, there were almost no other options but to draw on what we call one-time money. Money that was already raised and appropriated, set aside for a specific purpose. It doesn't recur. We don't replenish that. Once it's expended, it's gone. So with that in mind, that's why we're saying there's a very limited amount of that money available, even this year, let alone next year. So it's something to keep in mind as we go forward, that these sources of one-time money are almost gone. So that's part of the reason. The other part, and we'll get to this when we get to the article for the school department, we applied, or we're suggesting that we apply free cash. In other words, leftover money, saved money, if you will, to fund a portion of the school budget this year. Again, to get to a zero deficit situation. Free cash replenishes almost every year, but to varying amounts. Generally, there are amounts that are unspent at the end of a fiscal year, revenues that were perhaps a bit higher than expected, those kinds of things, including things like new growth and that kind of thing. But it's variable, it's highly variable. So it's not something that we generally have relied upon to fund operational budgets. It's not a good thing to be doing, but when we have no alternatives, it's what we have to recommend. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
And any further discussion? And this is on me, I should have said it at the beginning of the meeting. If you're going up to the microphone, just please say your name and the street that you live on, just so that, as much as Sue knows a lot of people, she doesn't know everybody, just for the meeting minutes. All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 2, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to transfer the sum of $20,000 from free cash for the maintenance of town roads, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 3, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 for Chapter 90 highway construction and improvement, the same to be used separately or in addition to sums contributed by the state under Chapter 90, provided such contributions are made, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 4, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to accept all cemetery trust funds received and turned over to the town treasurer during the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2026, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 5, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, before I read the motion, just for anyone who's not aware of what Article 5 does, it enables various, and they're all noted here, various governmental units to employ any of their own members to do work on their behalf. This is required under Chapter 41, Section 4A of the General Laws of Massachusetts. So, with that, if that doesn't mean that they do this, it simply enables them to do this. Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to comply with the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 4A of the General Laws as follows. A, to authorize the Recreation Committee to employ any of its members on recreation work and fix the rate of pay at the prevailing applicable minimum wage. B, to authorize the Board of Assessors to employ any of its members to perform cyclical inspections and to fix the rate of pay at the prevailing applicable minimum wage. C, recommending that we pass over this item, it is not needed this year. D, to authorize the cemetery commissioners to employ any of their members on cemetery work and to fix the rate of pay at the applicable minimum wage. E, to authorize the library trustees to employ any of their members on library work and fix the rate of pay at the prevailing applicable minimum wage. F, recommending to pass over this item as this also is not needed this year. G, to authorize the Board of Health to employ any of its members as clerk and to fix the annual rate of pay at $301. H, to authorize the Board of Health to employ any of its members to perform clerical services, and to fix the rate of pay at $9,128 annually. I, to authorize the Conservation Commission to employ any of its members as clerk and fix the rate of pay at the prevailing applicable minimum wage. J, to authorize the Park Commissioners to employ any of their members on Park Commission work and to fix the rate of pay at, you guessed it, the prevailing minimum wage. K, to authorize the Planning Board to employ any of its members to perform clerical work and to fix the rate of pay at the prevailing applicable minimum wage. And L is to pass over that particular item again, not needed this year. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Could you repeat that, please?
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 6, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint a town council for its ensuing year, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 7, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of the revenue of the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026, in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue a note or notes, therefore, payable within 1 year, and to renew any note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year, in accordance with the General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 17, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 8, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, to borrow money in anticipation of reimbursements on Chapter 90 maintenance or Chapter 90 construction for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2026, in accordance with the General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 6A of the Acts and amendments thereof, and including in addition thereto, Chapter 849 of the Acts of 1969 as amended, and to renew any note or notes as may be given under the article for a period of less than 1 year, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 9, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to hear all reports of committees appointed at any town meeting, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. At this point, if there are any reports or committees, please step forward. All right, seeing as there are none, we will move to Article 10, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept any gifts of property or money which might be given to the town, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 11 as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 12, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400 to pay the expenses of the town representatives for the Spencer East Brookfield Regional School District Committee, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. In Article 13, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen and the Conservation Commission to take any action on present or impending grants on lake restoration, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 14, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, before I read the motion, this year, because the ambulance costs, the cost of our EMS operation are in fact recurrent, as we all know, they happen every year, we made the decision to place an amount, and as you can see here, it's $100,000, and I'll read the motion in a moment, on the tax rate, if you will, raise and appropriate. In the past, we have taken funds from free cash to do this. However, given our situation this year and the need for free cash in other areas, this year we, as a committee, recommend that we transfer or we be raising and appropriating that $100,000 for the ambulance service. So with that, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to transfer $281,040 from ambulance fees reserved for appropriation and to raise and appropriate $100,000 for a total of $381,040 to the ambulance operational expense account for fiscal year 2027. And I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 15, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends to raise and appropriate $3,164,830, transfer $112,859 from the elementary stabilization account, and transfer $122,859 from free cash for a total of $3,400,548 to the regional school apportionment account for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 2027 Spencer East Brookfield Regional School District assessment. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
$3,500,000, somebody say something.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 16, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, the reason for the passover on this article is that the amount needed for capital costs this year was included in the school budget in the previous article.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 17, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to the vocational school account for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 2027 costs associated with the education and transportation of East Brookfield vocational school students, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 18, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 19, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article as well at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 20, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 21, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 22, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. You guys are making my job very easy tonight. Article 23, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate from solid waste receipts a total of $270,384 to operate the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 24, as written and provided to those in attendance, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, excuse me, the Finance Committee did not receive detail on the funding sources for this article prior to going to print with what you have in your hands. With that, I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen, namely Mr. Button, to make the motion and recommendation to the town meeting.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the Board of Selectmen recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate from water receipts the sum of $1,366,962 and to transfer the sum of $150,000 from retained earnings for a total of $1,516,962 to operate the Water Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026, and I so move.
Second.
Who was the second? No, who was? Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yep, if you could please come up.
Mr. Walker, take it over. It's coming through. So you see an increase in the overall operating cost? Pardon? You can't hear it. Okay. You're
Scholastic Paper Hill Road. I'm asking the question, is the anticipated cost of operating the wastewater treatment plant or the water filtration plant exceeding what was projected?
The cost of operating the plant,
Isn't this what this is?
this is our operating budget for the entire year, which is operating costs for the system as well as debt service costs paid for the work that's been done today. So it includes operation of the plant for the upcoming year. The plant just came online March.
Yeah,
March.
I realize that.
So we don't have a full year's worth of data yet.
So what are you doing? You're just increasing costs to just cover yourself?
We're covering the town budget this year, similar to the general fund pressures that we're feeling this year. This is amongst the highest years, as I've said in prior public meetings, for the cost to run the system in terms of debt service and operating costs. And that's in part why we last fall appropriated a transfer of $100,000 to retainer to help mitigate that cost. And we're using that money and more now to help us keep the rates as low as we can.
I understand that we're using our environmental consultant to optimize the system in order to reduce costs.
Yes, we are. That's all part of the one-year startup. That's part of the plant project.
So they have a contractual obligation to optimize the cost of.
They have an obligation to help us start up the plant as efficiently and effectively.
Okay. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 25, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 for the Special Police Cruiser Stabilization Account, and I so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 26, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to transfer the sum of $19,200 from free cash to pay for additional snow and ice expenses and wages for fiscal 2026. And I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Article 27, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to transfer the sum of $40,000 from free cash to fund costs associated with the required safety improvements to the playground facility at Memorial Town Complex as outlined in the safety inspection completed for the town, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 28, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, as most recently amended, to establish annual expenditure limits for the fiscal year 2027 for all revolving funds listed in Article 17 of the General Bylaws as set forth below. Animal Inspector, $500. Wire Inspector, $12,000. Board of Health, $10,000. Plumbing and Gas Inspector, $10,000. And in addition to the article above, tax title at $25,000. And I so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 29, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to exempt municipal buildings, grounds, or parking areas as prohibited areas pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 269, Section 10K2I. To see if the town will vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 4, Section 4, to exempt town administrative buildings or offices, grounds, or parking areas thereof from being classified as a prohibited area for the possession of firearms as outlined in Mass General Laws, Chapter 269, Section 10K2I. And I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
John Triviano, 192 million. Does that include the school building? No? Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 39, Article 30, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to amend the Town of East Brookfield general bylaws so as to change the position of tree warden from an elected position to an appointed one. If the town provides by vote or by law that the tree warden shall be appointed, such appointment shall be made by the Board of Selectmen. The term of such appointment shall be for 3 years. The tree warden shall exercise the duties of the tree warden and of insect pest control. Such tree warden shall be qualified by training and experience in the field of arboriculture and licenses with the Department of the Food and Agriculture in accordance with the provisions of Section 10 of Chapter 132B. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 31, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town include a bylaw as it relates to camping the following. No person shall set up on property, public or private, without permission of the owner thereof, or without the permission of the officers, or board in control of such property, a camp, tent, trailer, mobile home, or so-called camper, or sleep in the open on any property, public or private, without such permission, within the limits of the town of East Brookfield. Any person found violating this bylaw and who refuses to vacate the premises upon the lawful request of a police officer, owner, or other person in control of such property shall be subject to arrest in accordance with Chapter 272, Section 59 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended. Any person violating this bylaw shall be subject to a fine of $50. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question.
I just noticed that part of it says, or sleep in the open on any property, public or private, without such permission. Does that mean someone's backyard? When you say private? Or if they get permission of who?
The property owner. So if you come home from work and somebody camps in your backyard, you can say, hey, get out of here.
Okay, so
If
my
somebody,
grandkids want to camp out, they only need my permission.
your permission,
Okay.
you're the property owner.
Thank you.
If, for instance, somebody set up camp on, say, town property, this gives an immediate
No, I understand that.
reason to have them go out. And also, if you come home and you go for a walk in the backwoods and somebody's camped there, they give you teeth to have them removed with this bylaw.
Any further discussion?
And now the prior to 51 Main Street. So, I'm just curious about the $50. I'm thinking of homeless people and issues, like you wouldn't have, like what happens if you don't have the money, you just...
I'll refer that to the chief. Refer the mic to the chief. Thank you, chief.
Our intention is not to cite people or arrest people. It's just something to assist us in motivating people to leave properties where other people don't want them there. We've had some instances this past few years with an individual that inquired on property. This will give us to move them along a little bit quicker. We have to go through the court process before, it might take several months. So this will give us an opportunity to move people along a little bit quicker. Not the issues like this.
Any further discussion? Oh, go ahead.
If it wasn't big as it were, I think the $50 plan is too small. There's no teeth to it. It needs to be higher, much higher to prevent future problems. And I think $50 is really nothing. It should be something like $250. So it just doesn't start. Once it starts, it's going to be a problem.
Yes, you can, Chief.
So, the way this bylaw is written, if somebody refuses to leave, we can take them into custody and arrest them. So that would be our action if somebody refuses. They also have to pay the fine. They also have to pay the fine, correct? It's possible we want to do that. If we take them into custody, we're not participating in civil citation.
And any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 32, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, bear with me on this one, folks. This is all state wording. Shocker. The Finance Committee recommends the town vote to impose a local meals tax, excise, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 64L, Section 2A as follows. Part A, a city or town which accepts this section in the manner provided in Section 4 of Chapter 4 may impose a local sales tax upon the sale of restaurant meals originating within the city or town by a vendor at the rate of 0.75% of the gross receipts of the vendor from the sale of restaurant meals. No excise shall be imposed if the sale is exempt under Section 6 of Chapter 64H. The vendor shall pay the local sales tax imposed under this section to the Commissioner at the same time and in the same manner as the sales tax due to the Commonwealth. Part B. All sums received by the Commissioner under this section shall, at least quarterly, be distributed, credited, and paid by the State Treasurer upon certification of the Commissioner to each city or town that has accepted this section in proportion to the amount of the sums received from the sales of restaurant meals in that city or town. Any city or town seeking to dispute the Commissioner's calculation or its distribution under this subsection shall notify the Commissioner in writing not later than 1 year from the date the tax was distributed by the Commissioner to the city or town. Part C. This section shall take effect in a municipality on the first day of the calendar quarter following 30 days after its acceptance by the municipality or on the first day of a later calendar quarter that the city or town may designate. And finally, Section D, notwithstanding any provisions in Section 21 of Chapter 62C, to the contrary, the Commissioner may make available to cities and towns any information necessary for administration of the excise imposed by this section, including, but not limited to, a report of the amount of local option sales tax on restaurant meals collected in the aggregate by each city or town under this section in the preceding fiscal year, and the identification of each individual vendor collecting local option sales tax on restaurant meals collected under this chapter. And I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is it a quick one? I can repeat your question if you want. The cost is zero. It is added to the meals tax, and the question was, what would it cost to implement, and approximately what would it be for income? The cost to implement it is zero. It's collected by the DOR, right?
Yeah.
It's collected just like for sales tax. It's 3/4 of a percentage point. When you go to 308 and you have a nice dinner and it's $100, this is 75 cents. When you get a roller dog at Cumbies, it's 2 cents. It's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12,000 for the year if 308 and the clam box have a good year. It's not a lot of money, but it's there, it's available. We were under the impression that it was do or die when it was first introduced. We had someone inform us to give us an answer in the law that we can do it anytime we want. Let's do it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Article 33, as written and provided to those in attendance. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to pass over this article at this time, and I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I'm curious, hearing the dire situation, as talked about at the beginning of this meeting, just wondering, what is the town doing, if anything, to bring in new business? And nothing big really, but warehousing, restaurants, certain small things. Good example is they got a battery farm or whatever it is up in Oakland. I guess the residents are all up and on. Hey, if I'm an East Brookfield resident and I'm facing this tax problem in the future, I'd open up, whatever that company is, I'd open up my eyes and say, come on in, town. So I'm just wondering, are there brokers, or sometimes there are brokers or people that companies ask to search the towns for space, type of things like that. And I think the town needs to do something like that to provide incentives to have business come in to take the burden off the taxpayer. Because, according to what I'm hearing, in 2 to 3 years, we're going to be going through overrides and that type of thing, and it's not going to be pretty. So I think that's something we may want to look into, and I think you can hire a broker or somebody to work for the town to possibly bring in, look for opportunities. East Brookfield should be one of the towns that said, yeah, we're looking for new business, come on in and talk.
Would be so if you want to address it, not at this time. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned at, I don't have my glasses on, 8:10.
Thanks for watching the Town of East Brookfield's YouTube channel. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, or anything to add, comment them down below or email ebmedia@eastbrookfieldma.us.